The private dining room at Marchetti's seats 18. That night, it held 16. Mark's parents, his brother's family, 2 college friends, 3 coworkers, and us. White tablecloths, a cake on the sideboard with his name in gold script. Mark stood at the center of it all with a glass of wine mid-toast about himself. He does that, toasts himself on his own birthday, disguised as gratitude. His mother was beaming. His father, a retired deacon who believes in firm handshakes and till death do us part, had a hand resting on his son's shoulder. I stood at the head of the table with my phone. The private room has a Bluetooth speaker system for corporate events. 2 weeks earlier, I'd called the events manager and asked how it paired. She'd emailed me instructions. I'd tipped in advance. Pairing took 4 seconds. Elena phone connected. Mark was saying, and honestly, 35 is just the start because when you've built what I've built, when I pressed play and his own voice came out of the ceiling at presentation volume and finished the toast for him. Babe, relax. She trusts me blindly. This idiot doesn't know anything. She'd never even guess to check my phone. I milk her bonus next month and then we leave. And then, the part that did the real damage, his laugh. His big, warm salesman laugh, the one his whole family knows, bouncing off the wallpaper while he stood there holding wine. The room didn't gasp. 16 people went perfectly silent, the specific silence of a family recognizing a voice. His father's hand came off his shoulder. I set a manila folder on his plate, next to the bread. I'm Elena, I'm 32, I build software for a living, and 30 days before that dinner, I carried a cup of coffee down a hallway and never delivered it. Let me document the marriage properly, the way you can only document a system after it fails. I'm a principal engineer at a company you use every week. Base salary, equity, and an annual bonus that, in a good year, is a second salary by itself. This year was a very good year. I say the numbers plainly because Mark never did. In public, he rounded me down to she does computer stuff, with a small wink, the way you'd mention a wife's scrapbooking. Mark is a sales director. He earns real money in good quarters and noise in all of them, and he's genuinely charismatic. I'll be fair about that, because the charisma is the entire mechanism. He walks into rooms and reorganizes them. He remembers names, refills drinks, tells the ski trip story. Everyone's mother adores him. Mine did. The image cost money. Tailored suits, he had a guy. A leased German sedan 1 tier above what his side finances supported. A watch that cost more than my laptop, my monitor, and my ergonomic chair combined. Purchased to impress clients who, I promise you, were not looking at his wrist. At home, the charisma had a second job, keeping me small. It was never loud. It was maintenance-level gaslighting applied daily, like moisturizer. If I questioned a charge, babe, you're brilliant with computers and hopeless with real life. Let me handle the money stuff. If I got a promotion, that's great, but don't become one of those corporate women. It's not attractive. At dinner parties, if I started explaining my actual work, he'd squeeze my hand. The squeeze meant wrap it up and redirect. She'll go on all night, anyway, and the table would laugh, relieved, and turn back to him. Here's the engineering diagnosis of our marriage. His ego was load-bearing. The whole structure only stood if I played small, the boring, naive, indoor wife, so that he could feel big. And I did play small, for 9 years. Partly love, partly exhaustion, and partly, I can admit now, a professional habit that turned out to be the most important decision I never consciously made. When a system behaves strangely, you don't announce your suspicions. You add logging. A Thursday in April, 9:40 p.m. Mark had been buried in quarterly numbers in his home office all evening, and I did the thing I'd done 100 times in 9 years, made him coffee, black, 1 sugar. I carried it down the hallway barefoot because the floors are heated and the socks were in the dryer, and that's the entire reason he never heard me coming, not strategy, laundry. The office door was cracked, not closed, cracked, a hand's width, lamplight through the gap, and through it, his voice. Not his work voice, his other voice, low, warm, lazy, a register I hadn't heard aimed at me in years, and it took me 2 seconds to even parse why it sounded wrong coming from a room containing only him. He was on speakerphone. Her voice was young and bright. Her name, I'd learn, is Kayla. She works 2 floors below him. I stood in the hallway holding the coffee, and I listened to my husband perform me for his mistress. He did impressions. He mocked the way I explained things. Well, technically, in a flat robot voice, and she laughed, so he did it twice more. Encored. He called me the calculator. He said the wire transfer for the Maui thing would clear Friday and not to worry about the card balances. And then he said it. The paragraph I now know by heart because I own a recording of it. Babe, relax. She trusts me blindly. This idiot doesn't know anything. She'd never even guess to check my phone. I milk her bonus next month and then we leave. I want to describe the physical experience precisely since I promised myself I'd be honest about it. First, heat. A flush up the neck, a shake arriving in the hands. The surface of the coffee trembled, and I watched it tremble like it belonged to someone else. My eyes filled, and then maybe 4 seconds in, something happened that I recognize from production incidents at 3 a.m. The panic hit some internal rate limit and converted. The tears stopped before they fell. Literally, I felt them recede. What replaced them wasn't numbness, it was bandwidth. Every resource that had been allocated to being hurt was reassigned instantly to being accurate. I did not drop the coffee. Dropped coffee is a log entry. I set the mug down on the hallway bookshelf silently, took out my phone, opened the voice recorder, and held it to the gap in the door. 3 minutes and 11 seconds. The bonus plan, again in fuller detail, he actually said the word November, my bonus month. Maui, a joke about my mother, his laugh. I stood in my own hallway in my own home, barefoot on my own heated floors, and archived my husband. Then I stopped the recording, picked up the mug, walked back to the kitchen, and poured the coffee down the sink. I rinsed the mug and put it away. He came out an hour later, stretched, kissed the top of my head, and said, "Man, those spreadsheets. What'd you get up to?" "Nothing," I said. "You know me." Here's what I understood by morning, and it shaped everything. Mark's arrogance wasn't just an insult, it was a vulnerability, an unpatched one. He'd built his entire operation on one assumption that I was oblivious, and he'd stopped monitoring the assumption years ago. In my field, we have a name for a system that trusts an unverified input completely, an attack surface. Day 2, I saw a lawyer, Priya, family law, 15 years, reviews that used the word thorough the way other reviews used aggressive. I played her the recording and she listened twice, took notes, and then gave it to me straight, which is why I trust her. The recording, we're a one-party state, but you weren't a party to that call, so it's not automatically clean. It was made openly in your own home through an open door, documenting a stated plan to take your assets. That gives us a defensible basis, and honestly, its main job may never be a courtroom. Its main job is that it's true, and both of you will know it. Now, what matters legally is what happens next, and the rule is nothing you do can be hidden and nothing can touch money that's actually his. We separate, we don't take. Your income, your bonus, your accounts, documented, dated, disclosed at filing, and everything runs through me. You don't confront him. Can you play calm for 30 days? I write code next to people who chew loudly. I can play calm through anything. So those began the 30 days, and I'll tell you what nobody admits about playing dumb for a month. It's not passive, it's a performance with a matinee and an evening show daily. I laughed at his jokes, I made the coffee, I asked his advice about a work situation I'd already resolved, and watched him swell while explaining my own job to me, and said, "That's really smart, I wouldn't have thought of that." Meanwhile, in the daylight, with paperwork. My bonus, the November bonus, his runway, his exit fund, was redirected before it ever landed. Priya and my accountant set up the structure properly, a single-member LLC and a trust, my separate earnings routed at the payroll level, every form dated weeks before any filing, not hidden, titled. There's a difference, and the difference is what makes it stick. The joint account, which my deposits had filled at a roughly 5-to-1 ratio, I stopped feeding. My paycheck quietly redirected to my own account, a documented and fully legal act, while the joint balance did what balances do when only noise is deposited into them. He didn't notice for 3 weeks because checking balances was money stuff, and money stuff was officially beneath explaining to me and beneath doing himself. The health insurance was simpler than people think. Open enrollment landed inside my 30 days. You can check a calendar before you check your wage. And I filed my elections without his name on them, effective the first of the month. Also disclosed, also dated. And then, while assembling our financial disclosure, a required, standard, boring part of any divorce filing, Priya's paralegal found the thing I hadn't even been looking for. $45,000. 3 personal loans, all in Mark's name alone, taken out over 8 months. Interest rates between 19 and 26% because image-based men don't comparison shop. The withdrawals mapped almost to the dollar as a pattern I could now read fluently. A jeweler, 2 boutique hotels, a wire for a Maui deposit, and a recurring charge at a flower shop that had never once delivered to our address. He'd financed his affair at 26% in his own name, confident that my November bonus would arrive like weather and quietly absorb it. The debt wasn't my problem to solve. It was my exhibit to print. I treated the whole month like what it was, decommissioning a legacy system. You don't argue with a failing project, you don't yell at it, you migrate the data, revoke the credentials, schedule the shutdown, and keep the status meetings pleasant until cutover day. Cutover day was his birthday. I didn't choose it for cruelty. I chose it because his mother chose it. She'd been planning the surprise dinner for a month, and the guest list was, from my perspective, a subpoena of character witnesses. His conservative parents, his brother, his oldest friends, his colleagues. 16 people whose opinion of him was the actual currency he'd spent his life accumulating. The day itself ran like a deployment checklist, because it was one. 9 a.m., Priya's office. I signed the divorce petition, filed Monday morning by design, served after the weekend, everything sequenced. In the manila folder, the petition, the financial disclosure showing the separation of my earnings, dated, clean, disclosed, his credit report, his own freshly pulled summary of the $45,000 with the interest rates highlighted in yellow, and Priya's one-page cover memo explaining what sole and separate debt means in this state when it's incurred secretly for an affair in one spouse's name. Without a November bonus arriving to absorb it, the arithmetic was self-executing. 26% doesn't need me to do anything to him. It compounds all by itself. It's the most patient collaborator I've ever had. 6 p.m., I dressed for the dinner. Properly. The green dress he'd once said was, "A lot for you, babe." Hair down. The earrings my grandmother left me. I looked at myself in the mirror and understood the assignment exactly. Tonight, I was not the calculator, and I was not the naive wallet, and I was not small. Mark spent the drive glowing. He knew about the surprise. He always finds out and always performs the surprise anyway, and he rehearsed his fake shocked face at a red light and asked if it was convincing. "Very," I said. "You'd never guess what's coming." 7:30, the room shouted surprise. He staggered, hand on chest, magnificent. His mother cried a little. Dinner was excellent. I had the bronzino, and I want it noted that I ate all of it, because condemned marriages don't deserve wasted fish. At 8:40, his mother tapped a glass and asked Mark to say a few words, and Mark rose, radiant, wine aloft, to toast himself. Which is where you came in. The Bluetooth, the ceiling, his own laugh played back to the only 16 people on Earth he couldn't sell his way past. I let the full 3 minutes and 11 seconds run. Nobody moved to stop it. That's what stays with me. His father could have stood up, reached the speaker, done something. He didn't. He sat with his hands flat on the tablecloth and listened to his son's other voice all the way to the end, including the impressions, including the calculator, including November. Then I set the folder on his plate and spoke my only line of the evening at conversational volume into total silence. The petition's inside. So is the paperwork on the $45,000 you borrowed for her. It's in your name, so it stays with you. My bonus is in a trust. The insurance ended on the 1st. Happy birthday, Mark. The room's paid through 9, but the dinner's on you. You're the provider." I thanked his mother for organizing. Sincerely, the venue was lovely, and walked past the cake with his name on it in gold. I heard the rest in pieces, the way you audit a crash from logs. The check for 16 people at Marchetti's runs about $2,000, and it arrived at a table where the guest of honor had just learned his joint account was a husk. His card declined. His backup card, one of the 3 loan-adjacent ones, declined. His father paid, in silence, which in that family is not generosity, it's a verdict. The voicemails began at 11 p.m. and ran 4 days, and they're a complete 5-act structure all by themselves. Rage first, lawyers, illegal recording, you humiliated me, a threat to sue Marchetti's of all parties, then logistics arriving around 2 a.m. How does Cobra work? Then bargaining. Kayla meant nothing. It was a joke taken out of context, a 3-minute joke with financial projections. Then, on day 3, the one that told me he'd finally met with a lawyer of his own and been walked through the math. A long, quiet message that contained, for the first time in 9 years, no charisma at all, just a man reading his own balance sheet aloud. Then, day 4, could he float me something, just until things stabilize? I did not respond. The LLC has a strict no lending policy. I wrote the policy. It's 1 sentence. Kayla lasted 5 weeks past the birthday. I know because Mark told my brother-in-law, who told everyone, that she'd left when the Maui trip fell through. The deposit was forfeited when the wire for the balance failed. It turns out that when you finance a fantasy at 26%, the repossession includes the girl. She was never dating Mark. She was dating my bonus. My bonus dumped him first. The divorce settled without trial. 9 years of playing small turned out to be excellent documentation practice. Every account, every deposit, every date, all mine, all titled, all disclosed. His lawyer took one look at the recording, the loan pattern, and the disclosure timeline, and advised correctly that discovery would be worse for exactly one person in the room. Mark kept his car, leased, his watch, his suits, and his debt, that last item at 26%, compounding monthly alone. It's November now. The bonus landed last week, in the trust, untouched and untouchable, and I did something quiet with a piece of it that I won't itemize here, except to say my mother, the one from the joke on the recording, is going to have a very good year. I'm in my house tonight. It's quiet in the way I've decided honest rooms are quiet. My monitor glow, tea going cold next to the keyboard, no one down the hall performing me for anyone. People ask if I feel guilty about the birthday. 16 witnesses, his own voice, cake going warm on the sideboard, and I've examined it, honestly, the way I'd examine any design decision. And here's my finding. He built 9 years on the assumption that the quiet woman in the corner wasn't listening. Every joke, every hand squeeze, every let me handle the money stuff, every one was a bet on my inattention, placed at increasing stakes. I didn't destroy Mark. I just stopped absorbing his errors. Systems that mock their maintainers don't crash right away. They crash in November.